All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you're new here. Appreciate you guys joining me today and appreciate you waiting patiently for the intro to finish up there. As always, allowing more people to file in. Hope everybody's doing well today. We have some interesting topics we're going to be going over. We have two main topics of discussion today. Topic number one, Marathon sounds like it's going to be a train wreck based off of everything we've heard. That's topic number one. I am tired of talking about Bungie. I'm tired of talking about how crappy the situation with Bungie is, but I don't make the news. I just report on it. Topic number two, this is more of a rumor, and I find this one particularly interesting. There's currently a rumor starting to make the rounds that apparently Microsoft can't, and we'll talk about the usage of the word can't. There's a rumor that Microsoft can't really market Call of Duty Black Ops 6 going into Game Pass. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's weird, MBG. Didn't they already announce that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going into Game Pass? Yes. Yes, they have. So, obviously, there's a weird situation brewing here, if this rumor is to be believed, and I'll talk about why it might not be worth looking into. And yeah, these are the two main topics of discussion. Yeah, so maybe, yeah. I was going to make that a main topic of discussion, and we still can. Tango Gameworks is saved. Rejoice. Tango Gameworks lives. Very unexpected news. Slow news day? Absolutely. Yeah, it's been slow news months. Sony, get your ass into gear. I'm tired of this. Let's go. How much longer we got to wait? But you know what? We'll take what we can get for now. Why can't they market it? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Of course, it's all rumor and speculation territory, but I do have a couple of interesting thoughts. At least I think they're interesting. Did I see the rumor of what will be in GTA 6? I did not. No. I haven't really been keeping up with the GTA 6 rumor mill because I feel like the rumor mill for GTA 6 has been going on for the past 12 years, and it's just like, who knows anymore, right? Who knows? I mean, we're close enough. We're close enough to the launch of GTA 6. I mean, it's still over a year out, but to me, that feels close compared to, how long we've been waiting just for the announcement, that I'm just like, you know what, of course, if there's like some kind of major rumor that really is taking off, like, oh, this seems 100% true, yeah, I'll cover that for GTA 6. But I don't know. I feel like there's always different stuff coming out for GTA 6 where it's like you never really know what's true and what's not. Cypherpunk says with a super chat, since they already said / advertised it's Game Pass day one, that's BS story / rumor. I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Cypherpunk. Microsoft already announced that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is launching day one into Game Pass, guys. So where's this coming from? That apparently they can't market it, or they can't really market it? You got to pay close attention to the terminology that's being used here, right? You got to read between the lines a little bit. They can't really market Black Ops 6. Fearing the FTC certainly could be it. I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, though. I think it's a little bit more obvious. I don't think it's the FTC. It's not. I do not believe it's the FTC. But I'll give you the context. I'll let you know where this is coming from. Just letting more people kind of file in. Guys, before we dive into any of these topics, Alpha Ghost needs to know, why the F is GTA 6 trending? I need to know why GTA... I don't know. I honestly don't know. Is there some kind of major GTA 6 rumor that I missed that's actually gaining traction? I didn't realize it was trending. Yeah, Gaming Survivor, I appreciate your comment that you left yesterday. Good stuff, man. And OK comes in and drops a membership gift. Thank you, OK, for getting us started today, kicking it off. Appreciate the support, buddy. And so, yeah, I want to let you guys know. I did say that I'm going to continue to let you guys know. Yesterday, our weekly goal was set to 500 members. It's a weekly goal for a Crackdown 3 stream. Today, as you can see, we are at 420 members. Still a lot, still a long way to go. Certainly no guarantee, but I just want to highlight the fact that you guys took a major chunk off of that yesterday, okay? We got 80 members yesterday, which was awesome to see, so thank you guys for that. But yeah, just a reminder, we are striving for this goal. I know it's a hefty goal, but I really don't want to play Crackdown 3. That's the truth. That's the truth, guys. I do not want to play Crackdown 3. If we hit that goal, it's because you made me do it. You made me do it. But I will do it. I will honor it, okay? So we have 400 and at this point 19 to go. Yeah, 419 now. Is there a members lounge today? Yes, there is a members lounge after today's stream. So if you are a channel member, good news. We're going to be heading over to the members lounge after this. If you are not a member, that's something maybe that can entice you. And if you get gifted a membership today, you gain access to the members lounge. But yes, I also want to put it out there, guys, that there is a new podcast, okay, that I've started with my good friend Brown Sugar. And we've done some content in the past, although it's been a long time, but we're back at it. And I created what I'm calling the Dual Sensibility Podcast. It is a PlayStation podcast with me and Brown Sugar hosting and co-hosting respectively. Right now, it's basically in the beta phase. So the first episode is out there. The first episode is just going to stay for members. I'm just letting you know. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, of course, but we're just going to find our footing. And the way it's going to work is once we feel like we're in a comfortable spot, I'm going to put Dual Sensibility out early without ads for channel members. And then eventually, probably a couple days later, 3 or 4 days later, give or take, it'll go out publicly to everybody else. And this is something that I would, hopefully can go somewhere. But yeah, another perk added to the memberships. So, if you're trying to look for any kind of value or something, out of these memberships, if you're like gifted, hopefully stuff like that will keep you interested. We need the ads. No, that's a good thing here, man. If you are a member and you're going to tune into this podcast every week, you'll get it ad-free and early. So, will Xbox fanboys be invited to the podcast? Hell no, Jerry Gamer. It would be quite entertaining though, wouldn't it? But no, I'm not inviting Xbox fanboys because it's a PlayStation podcast and they can get the F out. No, I enjoy doing it though. So I'm looking to commit to it. I really want it to become a thing, a staple on the channel. So I will certainly let you guys know. I will let everyone on the channel know when the first episode, when we feel more comfortable, when it goes out publicly. But yeah, just another rundown of how you guys can support the channel. Become a channel member. You gain access to all these perks I just mentioned. Gift memberships. Consider donating a super chat. And there's also a direct donation link as well where you can still leave a message. But 100% of what you donate goes to the content creator. So thank you guys for allowing me to do this. But with that being said, we are going to dive into this topic. I'm going to start with this Call of Duty topic. It's at the forefront of my mind because I put a post out on Twitter. Yes, everybody's favorite place, Twitter, where we just love to be, right? It's where the brightest minds go to, engage in meaningful intellectual conversation, certainly. But it's at the forefront of my mind because I did put a post out, and it's interesting to see the different takes. So let me go over this information for you here. And before we do that, make sure you hit the like button to help the stream out, okay? Hitting the like button lets me know you enjoy the content, and it helps with the algorithm. But this comes from the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit, where the headline reads, "Rumor Xbox can't really promote that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is day one Game Pass," as shared on Twitter by Zakin Klute, I don't know how to say his name. YouTubers Paris Vicious and Lord Cognito were told by Microsoft employees off the record that they aren't actually allowed to aggressively promote Game Pass or Day One Game Pass for Call of Duty Black Ops 6 at all. Speaking on the latest episode of the Iron Lords podcast, Lord Cognito started off by saying this, quote, "I heard off the record they literally can't do that part with Call of Duty. I actually heard that off the record," end quote. Paris then said he could give context to it and elaborated by saying, quote, "While I was at Treyarch, and again, these were off-the-record conversations, the people involved shall remain nameless. You are 100% correct, sir. They cannot use that in their current marketing," end quote. So this is kind of weird, right? This is a weird situation, and the reason why I believe this is relevant, well, it's relevant for a myriad of reasons if it's true, but it makes you wonder why. What does this mean to the wider gaming market, right? Where we constantly have this conversation about where do gaming subscriptions stand in the gaming industry? I mean, are they really going to be the next big thing? Are they ever really going to take off? Are they ever going to usurp what is currently the king model, right, in gaming, which is buying your games, just flat out buying your video games? Is that ever going to happen? Well, the fact that Microsoft did officially announce Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going Day One into Game Pass seems to very much indicate that Microsoft still believes that this is going to happen, that they will be able to achieve their goal. We just talked about this on a previous stream, but it's absolutely worth highlighting this because this could potentially, I don't want to say change everything, but change quite a bit. So obviously with a rumor like this, first and foremost, take it with a grain of salt. This is just hearsay, but it's coming from, sources here that it doesn't seem to me they would be likely to just lie about it and make it up. And they're even saying that these are direct conversations they had with employees working for these companies, and saying they're going to remain nameless and whatnot. But to me, what's most interesting here is they're not saying Microsoft cannot market it. What they are saying is that Microsoft is not allowed to aggressively market it. But the way they're framing it here, the way they are framing it, they can't do it. They're not allowed. And this makes me wonder, well, who says? Whose decision is that? Why are they not allowed to aggressively market it? Now, there's a couple different theories here. Somebody mentioned earlier, it's because of the FTC. The FTC is still scrutinizing Microsoft. They're still trying to see if they can unwind this acquisition. And of course, that's a possibility, but it seems extremely unlikely to me because the cat's already out of the bag. You can't put it back in the bag. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 was announced at the Xbox showcase to be Day One in Game Pass in front of millions of people. That's some pretty big marketing. But ever since, they seemingly pumped the brakes. They're not marketing it nearly as aggressively as people would have suspected. Oh, Microsoft, they want to grow Game Pass. They want to get as many subscribers in the Game Pass as possible. Well, how do they do that? Plaster it everywhere. Every couple of words you hear from Microsoft, in between every sentence, Call of Duty on Game Pass, Black Ops 6 on Game Pass. But that's not how they're approaching it. In fact, ever since they first announced it, they seemingly have went relatively quiet. I mean, it's still there in the marketing, right? Like at the end of a trailer, it says play Day One on Game Pass. So it's still there. So clearly they're allowed to market it to the degree where we want to let you know it's on Game Pass. So this idea that they're trying to, we don't want to catch the attention of the FTC. Too bad, you already did. The FTC was one of the biggest, if not the biggest thorn in your side during the entire acquisition. Once it went through, is that going to change? Is the FTC suddenly not going to be scrutinizing Microsoft the same way? No, they are. Did the FTC think that Microsoft wasn't going to announce Call of Duty going into Game Pass? No, of course they were prepared for that. So this whole idea that they're trying to not aggressively market it, so that way, the FTC isn't on them. The FTC is already all over them. And Microsoft is putting Black Ops 6 in the Game Pass. So that to me doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense. However, on the other hand, what does make more sense to me is, is it possible that this is actually coming from the higher ups at Microsoft? That it's like, listen, Phil, we know you still want to grow Game Pass. We know that was your idea. Growth has been stagnant. Nothing is changing that. Maybe Call of Duty can change that, but we pump the brakes. Pump the brakes on the marketing there. Just a little bit, okay? We don't want to get too aggressive with it. You know why? Because look at what you did to the Xbox fan base. You conditioned a whole fan base to not buy games, thanks to Game Pass. And look at what it did. Look at what it resulted in. Now we got to buy ABK just to make us look like we're not sinking, right? Like we're not regressing and going backwards in the wrong direction. So if you're the higher ups at Microsoft, the ones that are essentially responsible for greenlighting the $69 billion acquisition, and you're getting Call of Duty, and you look at the yearly sales charts for Call of Duty, here's the biggest thing that people are missing with this. People who are seeing this are like, well, this makes no sense, and blah, blah, blah. It's not because they want people to buy their games instead. No. What they're failing to understand and keep in mind is that Microsoft putting Call of Duty Black Ops 6 into Game Pass, no matter which way you slice it, is risky. Highly, highly, highly risky. This is why we just talked about Take-Two Interactive CEO mentioning that they make rational decisions, hence why they're not going to put GTA 6 into a subscription service day one, and basically saying, yeah, I don't think Call of Duty is going to do much for Game Pass. That's Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of one of the biggest publishers in gaming. Oh, wait, no, it's okay, though, because somebody on Twitter told me it's not risky. So, I'll take their word for it. But no, the reality is it's incredibly risky for Microsoft to be doing this. The higher-ups know this. Well, I don't get it then, MBG. Why would they even bother announcing putting it on Game Pass if it's that risky? Gee, I don't know. Maybe because they already said they would. Could you imagine the shit show? And I was curious to see, are they really going to do it? Could you imagine the shit show if Microsoft actually came out and said, you know what? Never mind. We're not going to put Call of Duty on Game Pass. Could you just imagine? Could you imagine how rapidly those 34 million people that are currently subscribed to Game Pass, how quickly they would, I'm done, I'm out. Not just with Game Pass, I'm done with Xbox entirely. It would have been an absolute nightmare. In fact, the risk to do that is greater than the risk of putting Call of Duty into Game Pass. Imagine that for a moment. Waylark with the super chat says, Microsoft is predominantly a sub-based company, probably why they continue to stick or push Game Pass. And I'm in agreement. I think this is different, though. You are right about that. And I think that this is why they haven't given up on Game Pass. Because logic, by this point in time, logic would tell you, walk away from Game Pass. You don't just have Call of Duty, you have freaking Activision Blizzard. You just sell games now. You just sell games. That's what the logic tells you. But you are right. Microsoft is very much a subscription-based company. Many other sectors underneath Microsoft have found immense success in this area. So it's understandable why Microsoft would be more willing to say, okay, you know what? Let's stick with this after this major acquisition and see if this can move the needle. However, there is still, in my opinion, very clearly trepidation. This rumor to me validates something that I've been thinking for a while, which is Microsoft, I think, still cares just as much about full game sales as they did when they announced the Xbox One last gen, when they announced the Xbox 360, when they announced the original Xbox. I don't think that's ever changed. And I think that's the greatest That's like the greatest trick, I would say, that Microsoft pulled off here is actually convincing the mass market that they don't care about game sales anymore. And that's why I've always tried to tell people, like, that's not true. Make no mistake. Every decision Microsoft has made after 2016 was made because they could not get enough sales across the board. Not enough console sales, certainly not enough game sales, not enough sales to justify anything they were doing, any amount of money they were investing in it. Period. End of discussion. Doesn't matter how much you like Game Pass. It doesn't matter how much you're excited for Black Ops 6 on Game Pass. You can't remove that fact. It's just the truth. Microsoft, Xbox always cared about sales, and they still do. If Microsoft could have the type of sales across the board for all their games that they expected to have transitioning from the 360 to the Xbox One, well, things would be different. Things would be very different. In fact, the only reason Game Pass exists in the first place is because Microsoft couldn't sell games. We need to keep this in mind when we look at the current position that Microsoft finds himself in, because now Microsoft is one of the biggest gaming publishers in the world, and they own Call of Duty. They own Call of Duty, they own all of Activision Blizzard, and they own Bethesda. Something tells me that that just might be enough to make an executive at Microsoft take a step back and be like, you know, we were really struggling to sell games at full price in 2013, 14, 15, 16, all throughout the Xbox One generation. But things are different now. What kind of games do we have to sell? Oh, we have some of the literal biggest franchises in the industry that are guaranteed to sell an unbelievable amount? Well, damn. Suddenly, Game Pass, I'm not saying it comes off like a thorn in their side, but it's like, well, we did kind of commit to Game Pass. Yeah, that's true. We did. I mean, why do you think they raised the price and changed the tiers? Why do you think they're not going to aggressively market Call of Duty and Game Pass? Because they don't want to condition Call of Duty players the same way they conditioned Xbox players, which is, don't worry, you don't have to buy your game anymore. You don't have to buy them. You don't. That's just the truth. Like, we literally watched that happen. Microsoft struggled to sell games. They struggled to sell consoles. So then they came up with a solution with Game Pass that made it even harder for them to potentially sell games and consoles. Certainly games, software. We have King Sam, a member for 15 months. He says, my dreams have come true. Tango saved. Hi-Fi Rush 2 is coming, and so am I. This news has temporarily cured my depression. Still, F Microsoft and Xbox. Yeah, dude, I was shocked to see this. Tango Gameworks back from the grave. It is great news. It's awesome to hear that Tango Gameworks is getting another chance. They were purchased by Krafton, the same company that owns PUBG, but also made the Callisto Protocol. So, you know, they got the Hi-Fi Rush IP. I think they got all of Tango's IP. They got the Evil Within, and it seems like there is. I don't know if I could say the future's. Well, yeah, I could say that the future's bright for Tango Gameworks because, I mean, prior to this announcement, they were dead and closed. So, you know, it's hard. It's difficult to determine. You're saying just Hi-Fi Rush? I don't think so. If I'm not mistaken, they explicitly mentioned the other IP, which indicates to me that they got all of it. Hi-Fi Rush is no longer an Xbox game. Yeah, it's not, which is weird. That's so weird to think. But yeah, the chances of a sequel to Hi-Fi Rush are on the table now. The potential of the Evil Within 3, like, dude, the fact that this is the same publisher that tried to make the Callisto Protocol, this gives me a lot of hope that, are we going to see the Evil Within 3 now? I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that. So, King Sam, I'm happy to hear you're happy about this, but a lot of people are happy. I'm sure the studio itself, the people who are working there, thrilled, right? So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens now that Tango gets to continue to live. Still can't believe it, man. Still can't believe that Microsoft let go of that studio. Yeah, they made Ghostwire Tokyo as well. Money, you're saying, dude, stop. You know it's Sony. LOL, Jesus. How? How could it be Sony? I'm genuinely asking that. You say that like that would be some kind of obvious thing. What would Sony have to do with this? Are you maybe the only thing I can think is you're trying to imply, and this would, I will admit, Money, this would be a crazy twist. This would be a wild twist, not one I was expecting. Is it possible that Sony twisted Microsoft's arm a little bit here? And because, Microsoft needed Sony to sign that deal. Well, no, hold on. I don't want to misremember anything here. Hold on. Scratch what I was about to say. Sony needed to sign that deal, if I'm not mistaken. Sony waited as long as they possibly could, but it got to a point where if they don't sign it, that deal, it's clear. See, that's why I don't think Sony has anything to do with this. Sony had no leverage. What could Sony say? We'll fine, Microsoft, we'll sign it, but you can't market it aggressively. Microsoft's going to be like, fuck you. This is going through, Sony, this is going through either way, so you can sign it or don't. We don't give a shit either way. So that's why I mean, Sony had no leverage. I don't think it has anything to do with Sony. It's more likely it could be the FTC than it would be Sony. But neither of these, in my opinion, add up or make sense, because the most, to me, it's like Occam's razor, right? It's like the most obvious answer. The most obvious answer is that Microsoft absolutely does not want to risk losing full game sales on Black Ops 6. Because those full game sales, if Game Pass doesn't work out for Microsoft in the long run the way that they want it to, and there's no sign it's going to, they're going to need those game sales. Why ruin a good thing, right? We already have every single Call of Duty player. Every single Call of Duty player is already conditioned. They've been conditioned for the past 20 years. You give us $70 to $100 every single year at the same time. Call of Duty is basically a $70/$100 subscription service in and of itself at this point. Why would Microsoft want to tell those people, rather than giving us that full purchase, come subscribe to Game Pass for $20, even knowing there's a chance you're going to unsubscribe 1 month later, 2 months later, right? Because that's the truth, man. The harsh truth about Call of Duty is millions of people buy that game at launch and they drop it after 30 days, after 40 days. That's the truth, dude. That's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been. So if you're Microsoft, you want $70 from those people. You don't want $20 from those people. You want $70. This is why I'm saying you market Game Pass just enough to reassure those who are subscribed. If you're on Game Pass, you get it day one. Guys, we're fulfilling the promise, Game Pass day one. After that, normal marketing for the Call of Duty cycle. Win-win. That's what that's called. It's called a win-win. You fulfilled your promise. You're not eroding the Game Pass subscriber base and causing a shit show nightmare PR-wise. And you're also not asking people who are already used to paying full price for Call of Duty. You're not in their face being like, but don't you want it on Game Pass? But don't you want to subscribe to Game Pass? Why give us money full price for a purchase when you could just get it through Game Pass? Please stay subscribed. You see what I'm saying? It makes sense why they're not going to aggressively market it that way. Because it's too risky. But isn't that their plan, MBG? Don't they want more subscribers on Game Pass? They do. They want committed subscribers to Game Pass. They don't want to get the attention of the horde, right? The horde of Call of Duty players who are like, yeah, I'm the dude that buys it and stops playing after 35 days every year. They don't want those people to know. They want the people who are going to stay subscribed every single month to know. They want the people who are watching the Xbox showcase to know. They don't want the casuals to know. We have Gavin Hillick here, member for 15 months, says a major political donor on the board of Microsoft is lobbying for a change of leadership at the FTC, but he says those things aren't related. Gavin, I'm not aware of what you're speaking to right now, but it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. That's the way this shit goes, dude. We have Money saying only hi-fi. Why are you making up and we say spending disinformation? Well, let me double check here. I'm not trying to spread misinformation, Money. Calm yourself, bro. Let me see. So Hi-Fi Rush Studio Tango Gameworks has been acquired by Krafton and will remain open. Xbox announced blah, blah, blah. We already know about that. South Korean publisher Krafton, which also owns PUBG Studios, the Callisto Protocol, and Striking Distance, has announced that it acquired Tango Gameworks and is seemingly rescuing it. Krafton Inc. today welcomed the talented people of Tango Gameworks to their team, marking an exciting moment in the company's global expansion and its first significant investment in the Japanese video game market. The strategic move will include the rights to Tango Gameworks' acclaimed IP Hi-Fi Rush. The publisher plans to work with Xbox and ZeniMax to ensure a smooth transition, saying it wants the team to continue working on the Hi-Fi Rush IP and other future projects. Krafton intends to support the Tango Gameworks team to continue its commitment to innovation, delivering fresh and exciting experiences to fans. Krafton says the move will have no impact on the studio's previous games, The Evil Within, The Evil Within 2, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Hi-Fi Rush. Okay, all right. I see what you're saying here. I see what you're saying. So it almost does sound like maybe they didn't get their other IP, which I that would be kind of weird in a way, because it's like, I don't know, would Microsoft want to have an Evil Within 3 made by another team that's not Tango Gameworks? I mean, I guess maybe. So the clarification here is they just explicitly mentioned Hi-Fi Rush. When they mentioned the other IP, such as the Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo, they just simply said that they're not going to be removed from sale. That's essentially what they said. So, okay, yeah. For now, it's best to just assume it's Hi-Fi Rush, because I guess in an announcement like this, they would probably announce other IP. They did say that they want, they're going to have them work on more Hi-Fi Rush and future projects. So I guess maybe they're talking about a new IP. Damn. Well, I mean, I guess there is, no matter what, still hope for the Evil Within 3 at the end of the day. Devil Sure, you're saying so non-sold IPs are likely dead. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm not so sure, because, like, why would Microsoft hold on to them if they thought they were dead, I don't know. Now Sony should revive Ready at Dawn. Yeah, come on, Sony. Let's go. Make it happen. Make an offer. No, in all seriousness, they should. I mean, shit, if this can happen for Tango Gameworks, Sony should come in and rescue Ready at Dawn. That'd be great. Cypherpunk with the super chat says, not many have leverage over companies like Microsoft. Exactly. For as big as Sony is, multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, even Sony doesn't really have much, probably no leverage at all. Very little. And you're right about that, Cypherpunk. That's kind of the position that Microsoft is in. Waylark, you're saying, how does this affect us as PlayStation gamers? This affects us because I have been trying to... I feel like there's been this kind of like war or whatever. It's probably not real, but just, across the internet where it's like, there's always a back and forth between Game Pass and people who buy games. Now, it's not everybody. Most casual people aren't even paying attention, but as somebody who's been covering PlayStation very thoroughly for a while now, certainly when the PS5 generation started, there's this kind of outlook of, well, Sony Sony is bad because they ask people to pay $70 for their games. And maybe even other publishers are bad because they ask players to buy their games. And there's been this like war waged seemingly, and it stems from Microsoft. That's the important thing. I don't give a shit about what some random dude on Twitter has to say about, well, I'm not getting ripped off by paying $70 for a game. Okay, I don't care. Save your money. Whatever, dude. I love Game Pass. I love saving money. Okay, then goes. Okay, that's cool. Fine. No problem. My problem is the fact that Microsoft essentially attempted to wage war on this model to then seemingly come full circle and come back to it. But they're trying to make it seem like, no, we didn't. And they're trying to keep up this kind of, they want that rhetoric to continue. They are going to allow it to continue, right? And that's what bothers me, because I've been trying to tell people for a while that, like, the model that works is you buy the game. The publisher funds the game, the developers create the game, and then the players buy the game. That's the cycle that has worked the entire time. Throughout the entire existence of the gaming industry, this is how it has worked. And it's never not worked. It's never not worked. And it will never not work, because it is the most basic but also fundamental system that has allowed this market to become what it is. It's not, and I want to make it clear, it's not to say that there aren't other ways to go about it. There are, but you can never turn something like a free-to-play game or something like a subscription service against that. You can't turn it against it. Hold on 1 second, guys. Holy shit. Titus, bro. I see Titus, I just got notified, has dropped a direct $50 donation. Bro, thank you so much for that. I'm going to read that in just a moment. I got to play this one. I think that's the largest direct donation I've gotten, too. Let me see if I can. Wait, why did it do that? No, that's not true. That's a lie. John did not donate $60. Did that notification come through? There we go. Titus, give me 1 moment, buddy, and I'll read that. I very much appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Who's John? But just to wrap up this answer to this super chat, I just wanted to basically point out that I think this is relevant because I have dealt with so many people, and I've seen so many conversations, and I've seen so many different attacks towards people who are okay buying their video games and are not okay subscribing to video game services, And I've always tried to tell people, like, dude, Microsoft wants game sales. They want video game sales. They want it the same way that every other publisher wants it. Do not let them fool you. They will give you an alternative option, but if the day ever comes where they can get those game sales, don't be surprised if that alternative option suddenly doesn't look so good, changes drastically, or eventually goes away. That's the point I've tried to make. And there are just too many people who are in complete denial about it. And even right now, it's like when these people hear that there's a rumor Microsoft apparently can't aggressively market Call of Duty on Game Pass, I'm like, well, all right, what do you think the most likely reason for this is? Do you think it's some kind of outside force preventing Microsoft from doing so? Or do you think it's more likely that this is their first time with Call of Duty? They understand how much of a sales machine Call of Duty is, and they don't want to do anything more than they have to, more than they have to risk those sales. And you'll still get people who are like, nah, it's definitely not that. It's like, oh, okay. Like, sure. But Titus, let me read your direct donation, buddy. Thank you again for that. Titus says, hey, MBG, sorry for my absence lately. You don't have to apologize, man. 2 months ago, something bad happened in my family, so I missed a lot of your streams. I hope that you and your whole family are fine. Well, first off, man, again, you never have to apologize. I appreciate you showing up, man, at all, and especially coming in and showing support like that. It's very kind of you, and I'm sorry to hear about some of the troubles maybe you've run into with your family. I hope all is well. And you say here, P.S. I saw a new kitten on a thumbnail of your streams. What's their name? Her name is Luna. Yeah, we just got her a couple of weeks ago. She's the newest member to the family here. And actually, hold on one sec. Sorry, I was trying to get Luna in here so you could see her. I'm sure she'll show up soon. I called her. She'll probably be scratching the door in a minute. But yeah, we thought it was time to get a third cat. We were feeling it. We got her. She's still a kitten. She's about 5 months old now, and she's awesome. She's starting to get along, or I should say, the other cats are starting to get along with her. Let me bring her in. Come here. Here she is. Say hi, Luna. Look at how long. Look at how long her arms are, dude. She's gonna be huge when she's fully grown. She's a long cat. Look at how long she is. I know. I'm just showing you off. But yeah, she's getting along well. She's settled in perfectly here. She's growing before our very eyes. Yeah, I think she's gonna be massive. Like just a big cat. But Titus, yeah, I appreciate you showing up, man. And again, nobody ever has to apologize for not being able to make it to the streams or showing up. I know, things come up. I just appreciate all the support you guys show. And Titus, once again, thank you for that direct donation, buddy. Mrs. MBG in the chat saying she's not Boss's replacement. He's out here cuddling. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah. She's not the replacement. Although I do think Boss feels that way a little bit. We also have Venino here with a super chat. He says, is a win-win situation for Microsoft. Look, or I guess you're saying win-win-win. Look at MLB The Show. Well, yeah. I mean, something like MLB The Show, dude, that is, again, that's a situation where Microsoft had nothing to do with that, but they get the biggest win of all, which is, oh, this sports game that never came to our platform, was exclusive to our competitors' platform because they were the ones developing it, is now not only coming to our platform, but coming to our subscription service because the MLB said, you're doing it. And there's, sorry, Sony, you're doing it. And Sony has no choice but to agree. Yeah, I agree, Vanino. That's a situation where it's a win-win-win for Microsoft. And I mean, you could say it's a win-win for Sony in a sense because it's like, yeah, you're losing an exclusive, but now you're going to make more money. So it's like, all right, yeah, kind of makes sense why for a game like MLB The Show, it turned out that way. But it's in a way, it's no different than Call of Duty. This idea that it's still going to go everywhere. And look, the whole point I'm trying to make here with this situation regarding the marketing with Call of Duty, again, as we started with this conversation, it's a rumor. We don't know if it's true or not. We don't know. I don't know if we're going to find out, honestly. This is one of those things where there's decisions being made behind the scenes, and the reasoning behind them is not, forthcoming. It's one of these things where maybe if there's more whispers, more, more inside information, we'll get more clarity. But if I had to guess here, it just seems to me that this is Microsoft's very subtle way of basically kind of making it clear. I think they've already made it clear that, yeah, like, it turns out we want game sales as well. And I'm not going to go in this direction again because I already discussed it at length previously, but it is going to be interesting to see what Call of Duty does or doesn't do for Game Pass. People obviously are talking about it. It is different. Like, this is the first year where it's different in terms of like, oh, we can get it in Game Pass, but there was a price increase, and the tiers are all, I don't want to say jumbled up, but they've changed the tiers, and they've changed, they altered the deal. Microsoft altered the deal. Everybody says they're okay with it because the deal still seems really good. But all these different signs point to a singular truth that I've tried to tell people, that no matter what you think, it will always come to this endpoint. Doesn't matter if you're the biggest Xbox fanboy, the biggest PlayStation fanboy, the biggest Nintendo fanboy, PC's your place to go. It doesn't matter. The end point is they want to get as much money from you as possible over the longest period of time. And they don't care how they get there. They just want to get there. But with that being said, because I know that's obvious to everybody, but the most important thing on top of that is they're not looking to lose money while doing that. That's the most important thing. They're not looking to lose money. The whole point. You're saying I need to put my gain up a little bit. Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. Probably for me hitting the mute button on it, I think I accidentally lowered the gain. That's my fault. Thank you for letting me know. I wouldn't have caught that. But yeah, that's the whole point, man, is they're not looking to lose money. And that's why I sit here and I say that people don't seem to understand that Microsoft is risking losing an unbelievable amount of money by putting Black Ops 6 on Game Pass. It's actually like it is surprising because it's like, dude, this isn't a matter of we want to see Game Pass jump from 35 million to 45 million subscribers in 2 months. That's not the goal. The goal is we want to go from 35 million to 45 million and stay there for years to come. We don't want to see people sub and then unsub. And that's why I think Call of Duty is such a fascinating, it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch, because when you think about the way players are conditioned, it's like I already said, man, when it comes to Call of Duty, the players are conditioned to buy and own the game and play it for as long as they want, whether that's for the first couple weeks in the honeymoon phase and then you're already on to something else, or all year long. People have brought up this point. They're like, well, how many people are going to subscribe to Game Pass and stay subscribed for the next 12 months if Call of Duty is like the only game that they really play? Wouldn't it just make more sense for them to buy it? And that's the whole thing too, right? Is again, this is why I'm saying, like, I just don't think Call of Duty is going to, but like, I don't want to say for sure, like, this is where I'm hedging my bets, but it's beginning to seem more likely that Call of Duty is not going to be the game to get Game Pass where it's got to go and stay. I just don't. I don't think that's going to be the game, because it's not. Again, it's not new. It's like everybody already buys it. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I just thought that this was interesting because I don't know, man. I posted this shit on Twitter, and people are like, it just blows my mind that people act so perplexed
by making a statement that Microsoft wants more people to buy the game at full price. Yes, they do. Like, why do, this is why I'm saying these people who don't see that are blind. They have been tricked. They've been bamboozled by the marketing. The moment you think a full price video game sale is not more valuable to a video game publisher, you've lost the plot. Is a subscriber who's paying $20 a month for 12 months more valuable? Yes, but they're much more difficult to obtain. That's like compared to just please buy this product because we think it's worth a purchase. That's what people, I think, are just totally missing, at least the people that I'm seeing responding. Like, they're just missing that fact. My God, dude, some of these interactions, it's like, what games do you suggest can do that? Truthfully, the only way I could see, because it's a good question. Like, well, what could get, if, like, we could be talking about Game Pass, we could be talking about PlayStation Plus, doesn't matter. What games would need to come out on a subscription service to really make it so that I'm going to stay subscribed for 12 months, for 24 months, for 36 months. I'm just going to stay subscribed. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm not buying games anymore. The only thing that does that, in my opinion, is you have to release AAA polished, AAA high quality games, like 1 or 2 every quarter, to keep people. That I really believe that. I think that's the only way you do it. And I specifically say AAA because I think it's pretty much been proven at this time that there are some people that will subscribe and maybe stay subscribed for smaller AA and indie games, but people want the AAA games. And if you want people to be excited about your service and care about your service enough to keep them subscribed perpetually, you have to constantly get them hyped basically every month or two, every 3 months at the most. And you could maybe make the argument that that's what Microsoft's going to be doing now, but we'll see. Again, it hasn't happened. We'll see if it does happen. Call of Duty is a good way to start. It's a good starting point, certainly, probably the best starting point. But I think that's essentially what it would require. But there's always going to be that question where it's like, well, I don't get it. If we're spending this much money to make all of these AAA games at this pace, on this scale, why not just sell them then? Why not just focus on selling them? Wouldn't we potentially make more money that way, or the most money? It's like, well, probably, yeah. Like, based off of the data we have right now, probably. That's like the safest bet. So that's why I said earlier, Microsoft is probably likely willing to take this risk right now because they've seen so many other segments underneath their company find that high level of success with subscription services where it's like, we've got tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people subscribed, and I don't blame them necessarily for thinking we can do that with Game Pass, but it's like, look at how much you've had to scale up. Is that really feasible? Like, is that really as sustainable as you think it's going to be? It's all it's all a matter of what can we get done, what progress can we make in X amount of time, Fred, you're saying I do not see Microsoft getting a good cadence of releases in Game Pass quarterly. I mean, that's been the goal for them this whole time. They will have Call of Duty every year as long as nothing interferes with that pipeline. But yeah, that's why I don't think Call of Duty alone is going to be enough. It's like Call of Duty is going to have to do it for the holiday season, and then come February of next year, January of next year, people are going to be like, okay, what now? Maybe, okay, well, I think Avowed's coming out now, early 2025. So like, oh, Avowed. Is Avowed going to be enough? Is Avowed going to be enough to stop that dude who subscribed to Game Pass in October. Maybe they stay subscribed through to November, but then they're like, I'm going to unsub now. Knowing that Avowed's coming early 2025, is that going to be enough to make that person stop? Is it going to stop them from canceling their sub? I mean, I don't know. Like, it's unlikely. I think so anyway. You think it will? Call of Duty's played all year round. Yeah, I mean, another way of looking at it is maybe Microsoft is viewing it like, oh, if you subscribe in October and then you stay subscribed in November, that's $40, but maybe you want to come back to Call of Duty like during a seasonal update or something, like 6 months later. That's another $20. That's $60. So that's almost a full purchase, but maybe this time you stay for 2 more months. So then it goes from 70 to 80 or 60 to 80, right? Money, you're saying, what is better, one-time purchase or $20 a month? Even if it's 3 months, you pay more for the game. Why would they sabotage themselves? It's Sony. I get what you're saying, but here's the thing I don't think you're keeping in mind, Money. You are right. It would be better to get $20 a month every month for an entire year from a customer than it would be to get $70 one time from that customer. You're right. That's more money. But you have to consider that that's that's what Microsoft has been trying to achieve since Game Pass was created. It's okay. You don't have to buy the game. Just subscribe. And stay subscribed because we got more games coming. How has that worked for Microsoft up until this point? It hasn't. They've either lost some subscribers, or if they haven't lost some subscribers, people are not, they're not getting new people. It's stagnant. And if you're at that point where it's like, all right, we've reached the point of stagnation way earlier than we thought we would. Certainly, nowhere near enough subs, nowhere near enough people paying for Game Pass yearly to sustain the level of investment we're making. Here's something else I want to mention. A lot of people on Xbox do buy Call of Duty. In fact, Call of Duty is one of the best-selling games on Xbox. So there are millions of people buying Call of Duty at full price on Xbox. I wonder what Microsoft is thinking about this, right? Like, I wonder if they're thinking about, well, how many people on Xbox who would have bought your game at full price and stayed subscribed to Game Pass are now not going to buy Call of Duty, but just stay subscribed from Game Pass? Well, I don't know. I mean, they did increase the price, right? They did increase the price of Game Pass Ultimate, so I guess they're still getting some money from those customers. But again, man, Money, I just don't know how it could be Sony. I just don't know how. I just don't think Sony has I don't think Sony has that power. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I'm super fascinated in I'm super fascinated to see how this works out for Microsoft, because as I said, somebody asked me earlier, like, how is this relevant to PlayStation? In my opinion, this is very relevant to PlayStation because seeing something like Call of Duty drop onto Game Pass, a new Call of Duty drop onto Game Pass, is nothing we've never seen anything like that. There's never been a game anywhere near the size or, scope that Call of Duty is. Something that is an absolute sales juggernaut that you don't have to do shit with this game in a subscription service, and it's gonna clean house. You could say, they could come out and be like, we're gonna start charging $80 for Call of Duty a year, and you'll still clean house. That they could do that. I'm not saying they should, but I'm just saying they could. That's the power of the Call of Duty brand, especially the Black Ops brand. I'm super interested to see how this impacts the market, because I'm of the belief it's going to do one of two things. I think that Call of Duty on Game Pass, and granted, I don't think we're going to see it within the first month or two. It's going to take maybe a 6-month period or so. It's either going to make everybody turn and look and be like, see, Microsoft, you were fucking wrong about Game Pass. You were wrong. It can't work. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter what kind of games you put in it, how much money you invest in it. The Game Pass model is unsustainable. You have to go back to the a la carte full purchase model. That's the only way you're going to be able to grow, right? It's either going to be that, or it's going to be, oh, holy shit. They did it. They had to spend $68 billion to do it, but they did it. And that will be, in my opinion, the more interesting outcome, because if that happens, you're going to see the perception of Game Pass, of subscription services in the gaming industry as a whole shift. The perception is, obviously the perception on a consumer level has already shifted to a degree, and it will continue to shift if that happens. But I'm more interested in the business model, the potential business model shift, where, like, if Microsoft proves that this can be done, how long until other publishers think, shit, we should try to do that too? That's why I'm fascinated by this. That's why I'm so fascinated by this idea. What do you mean Microsoft can't market Black Ops 6? I thought that's what they wanted to do, right? Isn't this their big push to Game Pass? Are they worried about it? Are they thinking it's not worth it? Are they thinking it's not going to work? Is it a third-party external source, some kind of contract, something that's stopping them from doing this? If so, who could it be? Again, don't think it would be Sony. It just doesn't make any sense there. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe we'll get more clarity on it. All right. Give me one sec here. Okay. All right. So let me see what some of you guys are saying in the chat before we move on. A subservice is good for when game sales stall. Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the way most publishers view it. It's supplemental, MBG, they're already doing it. EA Pro and Ubisoft Plus have day one. Yeah, that's true too, man. You're right. There are other, like, bigger games that do go into some of these other services day one. So it's not to say that I guess it's not like completely totally unheard of. It just seems like, I don't know, man, Call of Duty kind of stands on its own in terms of sales, and that's what's fascinating to me is I don't know. The simplest way I could put this is I think that ultimately Microsoft is just doing what any other company would be trying to do, what any other business would be trying to do. And that is, can we have our cake and eat it too? Can we sell, if not the exact same, a very similar amount of full price units of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 compared to any other year, right? While simultaneously putting it on Game Pass and gaining Game Pass subscribers? Can we have both? What if we lose 1 million full price sales for Black Ops 6, but we gain 5 million Game Pass subscribers? See, that I think is more along the lines of what Microsoft is trying to do here. At least in my opinion. That seems to be more along the lines of what they're trying to do here. And I'm not saying it's going to work, but I guess I'm saying I can't blame them for trying. And I also just think to myself, like, yeah, if I was trying to do it that way, I would also think very carefully about how aggressively I want to market Call of Duty on Game Pass. I see Mrs. MEG is coming in, dropping a membership gift again. Mrs. MEG is clearly making this a regular thing, giving back. I guess it would be the equivalent of me dropping a membership gift too. So shout out to Mrs. MEG. She's keeping the train going. Gaming Survivor says Mrs. MBG saved a soul and lifted them into Holshinoism. Gaming Survivor, you just have a way with words, man. Never ceases to amaze me. Never ceases to amaze me, dude. So for all of the Xbox fans that are upset with me covering an Xbox topic and being critical of Microsoft, I have good news for you. We also have a PlayStation topic. And the reason why I didn't want to lead with this topic is because, well, freak, man, I mean, we've been talking about Bungie seemingly nonstop for the past week and a half. So not necessarily excited to talk about it because it's like, can this just be over now? But we're going to talk about it nonetheless. And it's not good news. It's actually very bad news. And I'm going to be a little bit harsh, maybe even really harsh. See, this is the part that people won't show you, right? For any of the people out there making clips and shit. The next segment is the part that they won't show you or that they won't tell you about. Because I'm only saying that because I'm sure people are clipping whatever I just said about Microsoft and Game Pass. But now we need to talk about Marathon and how Marathon is starting to seem like it's going to be a train wreck. Am I calling it too soon? I probably am. But you know what? At this point, I can't see it any other way. I'm going to need Bungie and Sony to collectively come out and show me why this game won't be a train wreck, because I have a very, very, very bad feeling about this. All right, so let me go over the new report here. This is being reported by VGC. The mood at Bungie regarding its upcoming game Marathon is not great, it's claimed. Appearing on the latest episode of SkillUp's Friend Per Second podcast, Bloomberg journalist Jason Schreier was asked what the temperature check was at Bungie relating to Marathon. Not great from what I've heard, Schreier replied. There's a reason that it was planned for this year and slipped a whole year. And people that I've talked to are a little pessimistic about even hitting its current planned deadline. But we'll see. I don't know exactly when that is. Sometime in 2024. I'm not sure. He also added, yeah, the sentiment I've heard is not great around it, at least of a few months ago. Schreier also pointed out that the game received a leadership shakeup earlier this year when game director Christopher Barrett and executive producer Carrie Gauskos, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, left the project, giving his opinion on the likely reception to the game when it's released. Schreier said he didn't feel the Bungie fan base would be too enthusiastic about a PvP extraction shooter, and that he was concerned its continued development may lead to similar issues of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Jason Schreier straight up comparing Marathon to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So, for those wondering why I'm saying it seems like it's going to be a train wreck, Suicide Squad, I mean, this article gives context, but we already know what happened with Suicide Squad. Well, actually, you know what? Sorry. This is still a quote. My bad. Suicide Squad started development in 2017 when live service was the hot new thing, and because of sunk cost fallacy and endless delays, and because there wasn't really an interest or willingness in canceling it because they had committed so much money to it, and there was just a belief that we want to get this out, it's going to be cool. It came out and just completely flopped, he explained. I'm worried about Marathon being in a similar situation where it's been in development for a while. It entered development with extraction shooters when extraction shooters were super hot. I don't know if that's the case anymore. And now, because they've committed so much money and because it was the project that was the furthest along as opposed to all their other incubation bets, they're really putting a lot into it. And I'm just not sure there's much of a chance that it'll be successful. But then again, if you had asked me in January, I would have been like, yeah, Helldivers 2, that game is going to tank hard. It just looks like a disaster. And of course, it turned out to be the biggest thing ever. So that's why I like to report and not so much. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm really starting to think this is going to be bad. And I see we have Henry 3K coming in, dropping a membership gift. Henry, thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate the support. Single membership gifts help a lot as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My sound, make sure my soundboard's working.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry if I just spam that. I can't hear it on my end. So if that came through like 3 times, I apologize. But either way, Henry 3K, thank you, man. And Henry 3K says, pre-order Astrobot, people. SB Digital says, thank you for the gift. Slim is asking, can you not gift on iPhone? No, it seems like people do have a hard time gifting on iPhone. A workaround potentially is if you open YouTube through Safari, or if you go to desktop, if you have a desktop. But if you're just on iPhone and that's the only way, seemingly right now the only workaround that people, I don't know if they changed that, by the way. Maybe somebody can help clarify. I think if you open YouTube through the Safari app, or no, sorry, hold on, scratch that. That's bad. No, hold on. Google Chrome. My bad. Yeah, I think the only way you can gift on iPhone is if you're on Google Chrome and you go to YouTube manually through Google Chrome. So it's a bit of a hoop you have to jump through, but some people have done it before. Yeah, Mrs. MBG saying she couldn't do it through Safari. I'm certain I've had people tell me in the past, though, that they were able to do it through Google Chrome on their iPhone. Maybe somebody can verify that for me. But MBG, have you seen the Sony Games as a Service part of the Jason Schreier interview? It's like the last 5 minutes of the interview. With Scale Up, he says it's not going great. I didn't see that, but yeah, honestly, like it's Sony's got some problems, I think. Bungie being the biggest one. I'm not saying I won't give Marathon a chance. I will. I'll give Marathon a chance. I'll see what it is. I will see how the gameplay looks. I'll see the way Sony and Bungie want to sell me on it and really convince me that this is going to be a live service game worth getting excited about. But the biggest red flag to me about Marathon that tells me this is going to be bad. There's just no world in which this isn't bad. The biggest red flag is the fact that the game's director was replaced almost immediately after the first trailer came out. And that is a major, major red flag. I'm not saying it guarantees failure, but it definitely leads you in that direction. It sounds like, based off of the reports we've heard, it was supposed to be an extraction shooter, and it may be getting turned into a... Well, I think it might still be an extraction shooter, but it sounds like they're trying to maybe make it some kind of hero extraction shooter. And maybe the hero part of it is what's going to kind of save it or allow it to stand out. And I think that's fucking insane. I'll be real right now, man. Like, that's insane. Sony is out of their minds, in my opinion, if they think the next thing that people want to see after Concord is, well, you didn't like Concord, the hero shooter. Maybe you'll like Marathon, the hero extraction shooter. Yeah, I don't think so. Really makes you wonder, like, what the fuck is going on at Sony? Not to make it sound like it's all dire or bad, but just in this specific regard, where it's like, you could have greenlit anything. You could have greenlit any other prior multiplayer PlayStation game. You could have done any of this. You didn't. And Antonio, you're saying MBG, he says they pretty much chased trends and they lost a ton of money on the games as a service push. I did see that part where you're saying The Last of Us had hundreds of devs working on it and heads rolled at Sony for it getting canned. This is what's pissing me off still now, where it is abundantly clear that's the horrific approach Jim Ryan and Sony took with their live service. And I'll be honest with you, man, we can't really say Helldivers 2. The reason why I say this is because Helldivers 2 was in development for 8 years. Helldivers 2 was greenlit prior to Jim Ryan becoming the CEO, prior to his big live service push. He could have canceled it, of course, but something tells me Jim Ryan was not looking at Helldivers 2 as this is going to be one of the games that sticks. He was probably looking at it as it could, maybe, there's a chance, but I'm banking on Bungie. I'm banking on Concord. I'm banking on fair games, you know? Because, again, they didn't buy Arrowhead. They bought everybody else, but not Arrowhead for some reason. This idea that Sony's chasing trends, yeah. Yep. And they are beyond a day late and a dollar short. What trend is there to really chase at this point? I just don't know. Like, what live service trend do you chase at this point that doesn't come off as just totally forced, totally overdone? This is why I'm saying, if Sony wants to find success in multiplayer, and I'm going to continue to say this, especially now that we are on the cusp of something like Concord coming out, and then we still got to see fair games come out. Marathon seemingly going to be a train wreck. Unless this new director just turned it around miraculously. The only way Sony's going to find success in multiplayer is they have to understand that you may have given games like Killzone and Mag and Warhawk and Resistance, and so on and so forth. You may have given those games, and SOCOM, you've given those games their chance, their time in the sun. And you never really got to the next level heights that you wanted to achieve. But think about when you did that. You were doing that in the PS2 and PS3 era. Live service games did not exist in those eras. They were not a thing. Then you come to the PS4 era, where this is the era when live service games begin to take off and become a dominant force in the games industry. And you decided, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it seemingly it's turning into a bad thing for them, though, because they're again beyond a day late and a dollar short. They decided not to invest at all in multiplayer or live service in the PS4 era in any meaningful way. And by the time they realized, uh-oh, we need to do that, you could kind of tell. I don't know what's going on out there. Hold on. I just saw here really quick before I continue, Sean Mitchell comes in and drops 5 membership gifts. Sean, thank you so much for that, buddy. Sean is keeping this membership train going today. He brings us up to 8 members. Guys, really appreciate all the support. Hopefully we can continue to build this momentum. So let me... Actually, sorry, we're at 7 members on the day. Thank you for that, Sean. Always appreciate the support, buddy. Unknown wants to see that Crackdown 3 stream. Sean says we need Crackdown 3. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the middle with it here, you know? It's like, I want to hit this goal, bro. I would love to hit this goal. But I don't know that I don't know that I want to play Crackdown 3. So we'll see what happens. But what I was trying to say, I'm sorry for the silence there. I was trying to figure out what's going on out there. The point that I'm trying to make is that Sony needs to realize that it's not fair for you to basically look at these to look at these previous games and the previous IP as not worth pursuing. It's, it's old, it's tired, we already tried it, it didn't work. I just don't think this is the appropriate thing to do in the appropriate outlook, because when you tried these things, you were doing so at a time when multiplayer was still very traditional. It's just very much a tacked on thing. And if you make a dedicated multiplayer game, it's not being run like a live service is today, as live service games were during the PS4 gen and during this current gen. It was very much run in a more traditional way. And you could kind of say, like, okay, yeah, that doesn't work. Maybe you kind of walk away from those efforts. You just can't really get the big Halo killer that you were trying to find or whatever. But I just think Sony would be wise, in my opinion, where if they want to have a successful live service game, you need to take either some of your currently established IP that's already well known, that's very much relevant, and you need to do something with that. If not that, you need to go back to your classic IP and give them a second chance. It's not to say that we don't want new IP. It's not to say that we don't care about new IP. I admire that Sony is willing to invest in new IP to this extent. Fair Games, new IP. Concord, new IP. Marathon, new IP. I admire that. But it's like, what I don't admire is just because it's new IP doesn't mean it doesn't look completely unoriginal. Just because it's new IP doesn't mean it's going to look very unappealing to your audience, to your player base. Just because it's new IP by a studio like Bungie doesn't mean that Bungie might... It doesn't mean Bungie's perfect. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee. It sounds like Bungie was the one also doing some trend chasing themselves. Hey, man, what's the next big thing? Oh, the next big thing is the extraction shooter. Okay, let's do that. Turns out the extraction shooter hype was very temporary, and it's not to say that they aren't still relevant to an extent. They are, but they weren't the next big thing. That's the point. They were not. The extraction shooter was not the next battle royale. It just wasn't. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here is nothing about Concord or Fair Games or anything I'm hearing about Marathon, that project that apparently was spun off into a PlayStation studio with Project Gummy Bears. I'm not trying to be overly negative. I'm just trying to be honest here. Again, I'm critical towards Microsoft. I'm going to be just as critical towards Sony. Nothing about these projects seem original, seem like they're, seem like they're trying to speak directly to the PlayStation fan base. They do very much come off as this could be a big hit with the Fortnite crowd, or, a more casual audience that's just kind of hooked on these live service games. And this is what I don't like, because it's just, it's so sterile. It's so just, that's not, the whole modern audience thing. Like, that's not PlayStation, man. Like Sony, whoever's running Sony, or who, I guess we could say Jim Ryan, right? You would think Jim Ryan would be smart enough to realize, like, Jim, dude, do you not realize what made PlayStation what it is today? Like, do you not realize what made the PS4 so successful? Do you not realize these big hit games that people go out and buy your consoles for? Like, they're not chasing trends. Do you not realize that? So this is why I just feel like the whole. Let me put it in a single sentence. Sony's live service flex is weak and pathetic, except for Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2, I'll be honest, man, they're never going to get that. I don't think Sony's ever going to get that lucky again. But everything else that they've been trying to pursue with this newfound live service flex, I just think it's been weak. I mean, I get it. We could say GT7, but look, GT7 evolved into a live service game because it had to. I give Sony a lot of credit in the fact that GT was created by them for with the PlayStation 1, Polyphony Digital, and it was it's still their best-selling game ever, or series. But you know what? Hold on. GT7 should serve as the fucking template, shouldn't it? GT7 is exactly what I'm referring to, where it's like you had an IP that was well, honestly, GT7 was very successful, but you turned it naturally into a live service, and it's still extremely successful. Like, why can't you do that with any of your previous IP? Like, why? What is stopping you? I don't know, man. It's more complicated than I'm making it sound. I know. But I guess it's just, I think Sony needs to maybe the truth is they just need to accept that most of your studios do not want to work on live service games. And only a few select first-party studios can. Polyphony Digital with GT7 and I'm trying to remember, what is it? What's the studio that makes MLB? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Sony San Diego. There we go. Yeah. And that's about it. I mean, they do have Bungie now, so they have no choice but to continue to try to have Bungie make something successful. But I don't know, man. I just get this kind of feeling that, yeah, it's like you can't be good at everything. You can't be the best at everything. And that's where I think maybe Sony should just take a bit of a step back and realize that you do have two successful live service studios that you own. Keyword being successful. You have Polyphony Digital with Gran Turismo, like I said, and Sony San Diego. Maybe what you need to do is just kind of go back to the drawing board and find a better balance, where I think maybe the thing that Sony really lost sight of is that the single player studios that we look at today and we're like, yeah, they can't be live service, like Naughty Dog, right? Like Naughty Dog can't be a live service studio. They don't want to be a live service studio. I really think that we're just at this point where we need to acknowledge, Sony needs to acknowledge, like, they still made multiplayer experiences, though, didn't they? They made multiplayer experiences for, I believe, Uncharted 3 and 4. Maybe, I don't know. Was there? I don't think there was a multiplayer in Uncharted 2, was there? But they made multiplayer experiences for multiple Uncharted games. They made a multiplayer experience for The Last of Us that people loved. And I think people even loved the Uncharted multiplayer as well. And that was on top of what they were doing. Dude, that was on top of, here's Uncharted 4, the single player experience. Here's The Last of Us, the single player experience. What is wrong with that? I'll tell you what I think Sony sees wrong with that. I think what Sony sees wrong with that is, yeah, but that's not a live service. Is The Last of Us multiplayer? Is the Uncharted 4 multiplayer? Is this going to make us lots of money every quarter for the next 5 to 10 years? The answer is no. Of course not. But it's better than nothing. It's better than this. I hope the biggest takeaway Sony gets is when they see Concord crash and burn and they see just how bad it's going to be. Like, oh man. Oh, we bought the studio, didn't we? We sure did. Jimmy boy, what'd you do? I just hope when they see that, I hope things like Killzone also had a single player, by the way. Things like Uncharted 4's multiplayer, The Last of Us' multiplayer. I just hope that these things suddenly look a lot better than they did prior. Where they think to themselves, you know what, maybe it wasn't so bad. It wasn't the live service that we were hoping for, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe we judged it too harshly. I really hope so, because, dude, like, mark my words, once Concord is out, next up, it's Fair Games. I'm telling you right now, Fair Games is not going to do any better. Remember, I'm saying this. Fair Games is not going to do any better. People are going to see Fair Games, and they're going to be like, Sony, why'd you make a Ubisoft multiplayer game? Why'd you do that? And Sony's not going to have an answer. They're just going to be like, please buy it. It's going to be $40. It's going to have probably a year's worth of content. And for me, the final nail in the coffin will be Marathon. I know I'm being super, hyper, ultra negative, but I have a reason for being this way right now. Saying, LOL, Ubisoft has some good multiplayer games. No, I know that. I know. And I'm not saying it couldn't be a competent game. I'm just telling you, like, if PlayStation players want Ubisoft multiplayer games, they go to Ubisoft to get Ubisoft multiplayer games, not Sony. That, like, I guess the message I'm trying to say or communicate here is, Sony, why are you worried about making a Ubisoft multiplayer game when you should be worried about making a Sony multiplayer game? You get what I'm saying? I know I'm being really negative, but the reason why I'm being this way is because I don't think there's anything in place right now. I don't think there is any reason to believe that the upcoming live service games Sony has are going to be good. I don't think there's any reason to believe they have a chance. And I get it. People are going to say, but didn't people feel that way about Helldivers 2? No, they did not. There was, albeit not a lot, there was enthusiasm for Helldivers 2. Do you know why there was enthusiasm for Helldivers 2? Because Helldivers 1 came out, it was one of the only multiplayer games published by Sony that came out during the PS4 era. And it had, again, a small but loyal and excited fan base. And that's another thing that I find so strange. Knowing that Sony is seemingly so hesitant to invest in some of their prior multiplayer games because it's like, oh, well, it just didn't find a big enough audience. You're telling me Helldivers 1 found a big enough audience to justify a whole second game? To justify 8 years of development? Probably not. Granted, that was greenlit under Sean Layden, and I guess maybe it would have been a bad look if they canceled it, but I just think Sony needs to wake up and realize that if you want to have any success in multiplayer in 2024, you need to, you know what? I want to put this out here too. Here's another one for Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is very much PlayStation. That's another, I think, really important thing to highlight when we talk about why did Helldivers 2 work? Why? I'm not saying that's the reason it blew up as big as it did, but why didn't it flop out of the gate? Why weren't people hating? Like, if you look at like Fair Games, Concord, I'm not saying people are hating on Marathon, but people, like, there's a reason we haven't seen gameplay of Marathon. That didn't exist. That didn't exist for Helldivers 2, and it's because Helldivers 2, I think, still kind of had this. It has this PlayStation DNA. Helldivers, it was one of the early PS4 games. I think it came out like 2015. Very unique, very different. Certainly not a game that was going to have mass appeal, but Sony really got behind it anyway. And something tells me Sony got behind that game because if at the beginning of the PS4 generation, they were reliant on indies to help prop up the PS4, and that was very much an indie multiplayer game. And they were like, yeah, sure. But it had that PlayStation DNA, and that, it comes from the early PS4 days, and there wasn't really anything quite like it out there. But it didn't really blow up either. But now look at what we got from it. Whereas I feel like you look at any other multiplayer game coming up for Sony, there's no PlayStation DNA. There's none. And I get it. You're trying to appeal to other markets that are not your current PlayStation fan base, but they don't care, dude. They do not care. There's a reason they're there and not over here, and it's not because you didn't make that game. You'd have a better chance bringing those people over by bringing something out that is uniquely, I don't want to keep like flexing the whole uniquely PlayStation thing, but something that feels like it's more homegrown. Not something that's like, well, there's a market out there clearly, and we got to have a game like this to check off this box. So this looks like it'll do the job. No. Sony, if that's the shit you want to do, then you're not going to find any success. We have GC84 saying Sony had the next big thing on their hands with The Last of Us multiplayer. Naughty Dog should have finished it with 1 year of content and passed the torch to e.g. Firewalk. Yeah, well, I mean, it's over at this point. I on my last stream, I talked about The Last of Us multiplayer towards the end, and there's really not much left to be said. I do agree with you. It seemed like it was going to be pretty big. Nobody wanted to see it come at the cost of Naughty Dog no longer making single-player games, but no, it's just unreasonable to think that, listen, if you have a successful live service game on your hand, I just don't know why it's like, yeah, no, we can't. We're a $1 billion multi-conglomerate. We can't make that work. Like, sorry. What do you mean? Like, you don't have to force Naughty Dog to just grind away at The Last of Us multiplayer. MBG, what do you mean? Killzone was made to compete with Halo. We all know that. It wasn't unique, made to stand out in the market. I remember there were reviews calling Killzone generic sci-fi shooter. I mean, you're right about that. That's true. I don't want to make it sound like Killzone is some kind of insane lead, but I guess I'm just saying, like, the difference between Killzone and Halo at this point, though, other than the fact that Halo was much bigger previously, is that, dude, Halo still exists today. You know, it's still like, I'm not saying it's in the best state. I'm not saying it was taken care of properly, but Xbox fans don't sit there and be like, we don't have an FPS. We don't have a Halo anymore. Halo's done. PlayStation fans, like, dude, we don't have an FPS from Sony. Oh, well, actually, I mean, we have Concord coming up, but other than that, like, we just don't. And I don't know, man. That it's just I don't know what the future of PlayStation Studios looks like in terms of multiplayer and live service, but we're gonna find out. Give it 10 years, we'll have one. Silent Poet, you're saying this is what Sony gets for choosing Jim Ryan over Sean Layden. It really does make you wonder what a Sean Layden PlayStation 5 generation would look like. I think a couple things would be different. I think the live service thing would definitely be different. But I think we wouldn't see games be as big or high budget. And I'm not, like, I don't know. I'm not sure if... God, man, I don't know how people would feel about that. On one hand, I want to say people wouldn't be as excited. But on the other hand, I feel like, actually, would they not be, though? Hey, here are more games coming out in the next 3 years. Since the last time we released a game. You don't have to wait 6 years. Sean Layden has insane takes. Maybe he does. I don't know. I haven't been following lately. Planet Schlorping, you're saying MBG PSVR 2 is far from dead. That report came from a sketchy website loaded with ads. The media hate against PSVR 2 is so uncalled for, and I love mine. Well, I'll be honest with you, Planet Schlorpian. A lot of my takes recently are based on Sony's silence. You know, even what I'm saying right now about their live service games and their multiplayer, it's based on their silence. Like, why would I feel positive? Why would I feel enthusiastic about Marathon or Fair games when we haven't seen a single sliver of gameplay? I tried to be enthusiastic for Concord, thinking, oh, it's going to be this interesting space FPS. Interesting, cool, something totally new. And then it's like, oh, I just waited a year for this? What the fuck? And I'm not saying PSVR 2 is in the same boat, but it's just like, in terms of the silence, it is. Sony isn't saying anything about PSVR 2. And in this case, I'm not fully on board with no news is good news. I'm not saying it's dead. I'm just simply trying to convey that I am prepared to find out that it's dead. But it's going to be up to Sony to confirm or deny that. And until they do, it's just in this weird limbo state where it's like, yeah, it's not selling well and it just got $200 slashed off and is now sold out. I mean, that's such a weird scenario where it's like, is that good? Is Sony happy that they sold through the rest of their PSVR 2 stock, or did they do that because they're just trying to offload it now and get rid of it because they're planning on walking away from it? And I'm not trying to take away your excitement for Planet Schlorpian, because the reality is, even if Sony were to end PSVR 2 tomorrow and say we're done supporting it, you would still be able to enjoy it. I mean, you wouldn't have much to look forward to after that, but you could still enjoy it for what it is and the games that are available on it. So I'm not trying to take anything away from what it is. This just comes down to Sony once again, where I don't understand, man. Like, I don't understand how throughout 2021 and 2022, where we are right now with PlayStation seemed like an impossibility. Not a complete impossibility, but like highly, highly unlikely. And the reason for that was because, dude, we're seeing Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. We're getting Returnal. We're getting God of War Ragnarok. We're getting Horizon Forbidden West. We're seeing Spider-Man 2. Oh, Wolverine single-player game announced, right? On top of all the second and third-party exclusive deals sprinkled in there. But there was this kind of looming... And I'll be honest, I had such a positive, enthusiastic take on Sony and Jim Ryan's live service stuff, because I thought, well, man, look at how good they're doing now. if they just add some solid live service games that appeal to the PlayStation fan base on top of that, they're golden. But there were a lot of people who were like, dude, I don't know, man. This sounds like it could be a bad omen. It sounds like Jim Ryan doesn't really know what makes PlayStation. And there were people who said this shit. And I was like, nah, dude, he gets it. Jim gets it. And then here we are. And it's abundantly clear that Jim didn't get it. And his head rolled because of it. Same with Connie Booths. Somebody at PlayStation didn't get it. And they are no longer at PlayStation. And I hate this period because it is a transition period of, okay, Sony was just egregiously mismanaged, and we are now left in the dark where we don't know what this means for the remainder of this generation. We don't know what this means for all of PlayStation Studios and their output. We don't know what this means for... We don't to be honest, dude, we don't know anything. Like, the more I think about it, we don't know anything. I mean, the only thing we do know, I should put this there. We know this year. We know September. We know October. We know November. And we know December. So we know basically the next 4 months. After that, we know literally nothing. Oh, well, we know about Death Stranding 2, but do we really? Do we really know about Death Stranding 2? I don't feel like I know much about Death Stranding 2. I mean, I feel like we got 2 really cool trailers. We know about Fizzant, of course, but do we really know about Fizzant? No. I don't think Kojima even really knows about Fizzant yet. What about Wolverine? Okay, to be fair, we do know literally everything about Wolverine, but that's not fair. Not because Sony wanted us to know everything about Wolverine, because they got hacked. And it's just, I guess it's difficult for me to not be just somewhat disillusioned at this point, where it's like, oh, of course Bungie, of course the situation with Bungie is just getting worse. Why would it get better? And of course Jason Schreier's not coming out giving us a rumor about a September PlayStation showcase, but instead letting us know that, yeah, Marathon sounds like it's not going to be good, man. Sounds like it's going to be a big flop. Sounds like the developers aren't even confident in it. Oh, that's real nice. Where's the person responsible for this? Yeah, he left PlayStation like a couple months ago. Oh. All right, well, what about the new guys in charge? Have they said anything? No. William's like, September, bro. Dude, I'm... William, you already know, bro. You already know. I can't even put it into words at this point. You already know. There are 2 areas. So if I look at PlayStation, I look at it, I separate it into 3 segments. Segment 1 is what's in front of me now. Segment 2 is what's to come. Segment 3, you could maybe say that we could just keep it to the 2 segments, but I'm going to throw segment 3 in here just because it feels like such a big part of what PlayStation is involved in now that I have to put just live service / multiplayer. And it feels like I almost have to keep that separate because, again, the way Sony's been approaching it, it feels so disconnected from PlayStation itself. So when it comes to segment 1, what's in front of me, I'm not feeling too bad. I'm not. I'm going to play Black Myth Wukong, Astrobot. Not excited for Concord, but looking forward to playing Until Dawn. Looking forward to Silent Hill 2 remake. Maybe I'll play Lego Horizon. So, okay, yeah, the next 4 months, pretty good. Not too bad. Not the best, but hey, not that bad. The second segment, what's to come? Oh, dude, Sony, this is where I gotta bring the hammer down. Sony, what? Come on, man! Like, what is going on? Get it together. The last PlayStation showcase was in May of 2023, and it was a failure in the eyes of most people. PlayStation fans were not enthusiastic after that showcase. Let me tell you. And here we are. It's August 2024. It's well over a year, and we're still just being met with basically silence. And segment 3, live service / multiplayer. Well, I just told you how I feel about that. Saying people need to chill. We'll get a showcase at some point. Yeah. No, we will. We will. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. But I just have to sit here and wonder, the next PlayStation showcase, is this where we see fair games? If so, how are we feeling about it? How are we feeling about that fair games gameplay, guys? The next showcase, we're going to see marathon gameplay. If so, how are we feeling about that marathon gameplay? Are we going to see the Horizon multiplayer game? I worry about that too. I worry about it because I don't know, man. The sentiment around Horizon these days is not very positive, and I'm just worried that by the time they're ready to reveal this Horizon multiplayer game, it's like going to come at the worst time, where it's like, Sony, I'm not so sure people want to see another live service game from you, and I don't know that they want it to be Horizon. But then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people be like, oh, relieved. Okay, finally, like an actual good-looking multiplayer game, maybe? I don't know. Sean Mitchell, thank you for the super chat, buddy. You're saying, I know this might be off topic, MBG, but are you going to check out Alien Romulus this weekend? No, probably not. I did see the previews for this movie. And I'm not like the biggest fan of the Alien franchise. I'm pretty familiar with it. What was that Alien movie I saw? Prometheus? That's in the same universe, right? Pretty sure it is. I think the last one I saw in theater was Prometheus, and I thought that was pretty good overall. But Alien Romulus, it does look pretty decent. But yeah, I don't know. It's not often I go to the movie theater these days. Like the most recent movie I saw was Deadpool and Wolverine. And let me tell you, like that was like the first time I went to see a movie in the theaters, and I mean, honestly, it may have been years. It may have been that long. So I do think it looks good. That was one of the movies that was previewed. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be going to the theater to see it. Maybe I'll see it when it comes comes to like any of the services, and I can like rent it. There was this one movie I saw that just recently, I don't know if I'm assuming it was in theaters, and I don't remember I don't remember seeing anything about it, but it's called it's like an Exorcist movie, but it's starring Russell Crowe, and he's like an actor playing an exorcist, playing like a priest. in a movie, but he actually does get possessed. And the thing that blew my mind about this movie preview, I don't know if anybody knows what movie I'm talking about, let me know. When I was watching this movie preview, dude, the actual priest in the movie that is trying to exorcise Russell Crowe, the actor playing the actor who then actually gets possessed, is Niles Crane, bro. That's right. Any Frasier fans in here? I was like, bro, I need to watch this movie. But I saw it's like $20 to rent it. I'm like, damn, I want to do it. Didn't that movie make like $5? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because I haven't heard anything about it. And when I went to go see how much does this cost to rent, it was like $20. So you all think Sony are going to bring back Killzone, Motorstorm, Wipeout, Colony Wars, SOCOM, Siphon Filter, Resistance, etc. Those games mean nothing to the audience Sony is interested in. Well, that's what I'm saying. Sony needs to wake up and realize that the games that they're currently putting out to try to appeal to this audience, they're still not interested in. So what would be the smartest move going forward? The smartest move going forward is, well, maybe we should look, we can't successfully appeal to this other audience that we want to obtain. Let's at least just try to appeal to the audience we have. What frustrates me is Sony should have done that first. That's what frustrates me. I know. I'm not saying they can just cancel them. They do have to see them through, but I wish Sony would have been smart enough to realize that's like, listen, you should probably put out 1 or 2 live service games that are definitely going to appeal to your established, like, long-term PlayStation audience. It might not be the biggest success, but it'll at least be worthwhile because it's going to lay the foundation. And then once you get those games out, then start pushing out these other more experimental type games. You know what I think the biggest... Let me back up for a second here. Well, really quick, Planet Schlorpian, you're saying, did you see Godzilla -1? I saw a bunch of clips of it on Twitter, but no, I didn't actually watch it. Is it worth a watch? I don't know, dude. I can't remember the last time I saw a Godzilla film. I think one of the messages that Sony picked up, and I think it was maybe not a completely accurate message. I remember when Sony did their, what was it? Their fiscal year business update, and Herman Holst put up this screen, or put up this chart where it was segmented into their like core dev teams that are making single player games, and then their experimental teams, and then their live service teams. And the way I kind of read this was the bulk of their studios are meant to appeal to their current audience, and all of those studios were working on single player games. Oh. Mold got the camera. Oh man, hold on. I think it just might straight up be broken. Wow, this is hold on. I don't understand. Dude, it is completely broken. This might just have to be the rest of the stream. All right, let me try something else. There we go. Oh, wait. Okay. Now we're good. I don't even remember what I was saying, dude. Dewal van der Kalf saying, MBG, how do you feel about no PlayStation review codes for Black Myth Wukong? It screams major problems for me. And Astrobot hype. Indeed, Astrobot hype. There is some kind of leaker / insider. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how they're I don't know how reputable they are, but they've been talking a lot about Black Myth Wukong. They said that PS5 codes are going out. They're just coming out a little bit later. The PS5 codes are being distributed a little bit later than PC because apparently the first batch of codes they got, the studio was able to receive to put out was for PC. So they're not avoiding it. My fear is that it's going to be a little bit too late, but hopefully not. PC codes first, then PS5 codes. So we still have some time. I'm not too worried about it. I will be worried about it if by the time the reviews come out. Well, yeah, that's what's a little weird about it, right? Because the review embargo is supposed to be lifted on the 16th, so we're just a couple days away. I really don't know that would be enough time. Sounds like anybody reviewing it on PS5 would have to rush it, but yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit. It's slightly concerning. It is slightly concerning. I mean, they can still put the review out after the 16th. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Yeah, this is the big question that people have right now. The big question people have is Black Myth Wukong going to live up to the hype, man, or is it just going to be smoke and mirrors? You're going to wait a day or two to watch PS5 gameplay. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to do that. Although I will say, looking at the pre-order charts, a lot of people are also not going to do that. I can't blame anybody, though, for waiting. I don't know. I feel... I'm not saying I necessarily have any reason to feel this way, but I feel relatively confident in Black Myth Wukong. I guess I just feel like everything we've seen of it, it almost feels very much like the developers would have had to go out of their way to really hide this. And I'm not saying that's not a possibility. I'm not saying we haven't seen it before, but just considering it's their first time, like they're not releasing the game on Xbox. The only reason I'm saying that is because if PS5 was also a problem, then conceivably they would just release it on PC and then later PS5 if it needed more optimization. That's kind of my view on it, but again, I can't blame anybody for waiting for reviews. Yeah, Cyberpunk comes to mind, certainly. Cyberpunk is a game, and CD Projekt Red is a studio that absolutely comes to mind when you think about being completely blindsided and practically, let's just face it, lied to. Will it come to Xbox later? I mean, I could see Black Myth Wukong being in a similar position that Kena Bridge of Spirits was in, where it's very obvious that Kena Bridge of Spirits could have, it could have been ported to Xbox much sooner than it was, but they were just like, we'll get to it when we get to it. So it did come eventually, but like way later, like multiple years later. I was kind of surprised by that. I'm like, oh, okay. Makes me wonder how it did. I wonder if it was worth it for them. You know, another option. Think of this too. Another option is if there is going to be a next gen Xbox as soon as 2026, they could just skip Series X and S. You know? Maybe that's another reason why some of these developers are not announcing it for the X and the S, because they're like, it's not worth the headache. Let's just wait for the next gen. Maybe then we will. Chris Brown, you're saying, can we just say that Unreal Engine 5 was way oversold in 2020? Yes. Yes, it was. I don't know that I necessarily blame anybody who was selling Unreal Engine 5 in 2020, because I guess it would have been difficult to predict this, maybe, this outcome with Unreal Engine 5. At least it seems like it would have been somewhat difficult to predict that. But yeah, I think it was definitely oversold. You feel that's with every engine? Probably to a certain extent. I think it's been pretty bad thus far with Unreal Engine 5, though. I think it's getting a lot better, though, as well. I mean, this is one of the things I'm most interested in with Black Myth Wukong, right? It is an Unreal Engine 5 game. Unreal Engine 5 games have struggled on console thus far. Everything we've seen, it's looking really good. We did see some captured PS5 footage, supposedly, at an event, and it looked pretty good. So this could maybe be one of the first really well-optimized Unreal Engine 5 games for PlayStation 5. I mean, really well-optimized. Again, it's just an assumption. I'm saying it could be, but we don't know. Unreal Engine 5 will be better in next generation when we have more horsepower. I think we should have stayed with Unreal Engine 4 this generation. I feel like we have to wait till we get to the end of the generation to really determine that. Right now, I think you're probably correct. Like, right now, I definitely feel more like, yeah, maybe we should have just waited. But if it's one of these things where it just took a little bit longer, like it didn't take the entire generation, maybe it did take half the generation, but the other half, this is where Unreal Engine 5 starts to get really good, then I guess maybe the most logical thing to say there is it should have been delayed by a couple of years, not a generation. But we have to see. And I don't blame, it's hard to blame Epic Games for wanting to like move things forward as well. But Chris Brown with a $5 chat saying, I remember Epic saying Unreal Engine 5 had to be pushed farther because the PlayStation 5 was too good. Now all we have is 720p 60 FPS or 1080p 30 FPS. It was the opposite of the ad. I do remember that, yeah. And that is... It's interesting you bring that up because when I think about 2020, I'm pretty sure that's when Epic said that. I think it was Tim Sweeney who said that. I've been seeing a lot of these different videos pop up recently on my recommended on YouTube where it's basically people talking about the current generation of consoles, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and the S, and essentially just saying how pointless this generation has been or how bad it's been or how underwhelming it's been. And it's just so crazy to think, it's been 4 years, so it's been a good chunk of time. But in that, still, in the grand scheme, a short period of time, in that time, it's crazy to think that we went from the hype levels for something like the PS5 being so high because you're reading things like that, you're hearing things like that, and it really you're being sold on next gen, right? To see the results, it's hard for me to fault anybody or blame anybody for having that outlook when it's like, yeah, this is kind of the reality we're seeing. It hasn't been nearly as good as expected. It hasn't been nearly as exciting as expected. And the question that arises for me, well, the first question is, all right, is it possible that when it's all said and done, assuming that the next generation doesn't kick off till the year 2028, maybe late 2027, either way, a while from now, is it possible that the overall outcome could be, well, the first half of that generation was really not great. Maybe some people will just flat out say it was bad. But the second half was very good. The second half, they turned it around. The second half is really what defined that generation. Is that possible? Or is it more likely that the second generation will just, the second half of this generation will just be overall better, but still really not nearly as good as we expected? And it turns out that it wasn't going to be what we wanted until the next generation. Or is it possible there's a third option here that this is just what it's going to be like going forward? It really is like the end of proper generations where now it's just, you're going to have to find different reasons to care. Or Sony, I should say, is going to have to find different ways to market the next generation. I don't know. A lot of questions, minimal answers. PlayStation Pete, you're saying MBG, I still have Stellar Blade Platinum. I will have Stellar Blades Platinum by this weekend. Bought Astrobot's controller for $170. Not buying Black Myth due to difficulty and coming out so close to Astrobot. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough, you talked about that, how you were thinking about buying the Astrobot controller for a higher price. And I've talked to you about this before, PlayStation Pete. I think it's easy for people to judge where it's like, why would you do that? You're wasting money, or you're being bad, you're being irresponsible with your money, or you shouldn't buy from scalpers. But I'm of the mindset that, I think people should just do what makes them happy. Try to do it within reason, of course, but it's like, if the difference between you feeling okay and satisfied because, I was able to get this item I wanted is $170 and you can afford it, and it's not interfering with anything, then, who am I to judge that? I'm not going to judge that. That's your prerogative, It's your money. You spend it how you like. But when it comes to you platinuming Stellar Blade, I'm glad to hear that, man, because you had an interesting journey with that game. I remember you said that you purchased it originally and you were really struggling with it. And I think you were talking about how you were considering selling it or returning it. But, I was like, maybe stick with it. And here you are. Now you're getting close to platinuming it. So good stuff, man. Good stuff. It's worth hanging in there sometimes, When it comes to Black Myth Wukong, you're saying you're not buying it due to it being more maybe too difficult or because of the difficulty. I'm interested in hearing more about this because I don't know what to expect difficulty-wise. I feel like when you just look at the game, when you just watch Black Myth Wukong's gameplay in the trailers, it does give this kind of vibe that, this is going to be quite challenging, or, there are going to be some boss fights that are going to be like ridiculously hard potentially. But I don't believe if anybody did comment on the difficulty, I didn't hear about it. So I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure if it's going to be as difficult as maybe some of the trailers are making it seem. Apparently it's an action RPG, but not like a Souls game. Yeah, I don't think it's looking very much like a Souls game. From what I've seen of it, it looks like it really just looks like a very fast-paced action game. Yeah, it just looks like an action RPG. What you just said, it looks like that, but there's not much about it that looks like a Souls game. Maybe the only aspect that kind of reminds me a little bit of the Souls games is the heavy focus on the boss battles. But a review came out today saying it's easy. Are you sure? I didn't see any reviews for it. Let me see. Maybe I missed something. Wait. Hold on now. Insomniac Spider-Man 2 for PS5 launch. This is trending on Twitter right now. Updated 31 seconds ago. Insomniac Games released a teaser for their upcoming game, Marvel Spider-Man 2, with the tagline, "It's a leap of faith." Fans of the series have been sharing their excitement and virtual photography for the game on social media. The game has been praised for its open world, combat mechanics, and story elements. Oh. Okay. That's weird. That really, I thought that there was going to be some kind of announcement of some kind. Yeah, my bad. That's kind of weird. I almost allowed myself to get just like 10% excited, you know? I'm not seeing anything about a Black Myth Wukong review, though. You still haven't bought Spider-Man 2? The thing that's a little bit surprising to me about Spider-Man 2 at this point in time is the fact that there's been no announcement of any kind of DLC. This is interesting to me because if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to Spider-Man 2018, I think that they announced the DLC like right after the game came out. And they even had some kind of like season pass or something you could buy where you would get all 3 DLC packs. So they had it all planned out, and it's interesting to me that this time around there's just been complete radio silence. Makes me wonder if we do hear from Sony in September if Spider-Man 2 will be part of it. Maybe we hear about some Spider-Man DLC. Maybe they're just moving it all to Venom. Yeah, that would be a smart decision, I think. Basically, here's a dedicated Venom game in the vein of like Miles Morales, $50. And everything that was going to be in that DLC is actually now in here, plus more. I think that would be the better way to do it. Yeah, that could really be a big thing for the PS5 Pro, if you think about it. I've been saying for a long time now that when Sony does reveal the PS5 Pro, they would do well to have a couple of new game announcements. At least one go-to new game announcement to be like, here's the new game running on the PS5 Pro. Something like a Miles Morales sized Venom game would be a really solid bet. It's Marvel. It's the Spider-Man universe. Yeah, that actually would make a lot of sense, but I don't know. It's very much just speculation. It's just kind of like, yeah, they could do that, maybe. But for all we know, that Venom game might be nowhere near ready. Maybe they give Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth a PS5 Pro update. Yeah, they could do that. People would be happy. I don't think so, though, for some reason. I don't know why. I just get this feeling that the partnership between Square and Sony is done. I feel like that was made clear earlier this year. Venom shows off the ray tracing and stuff really well. Yeah, that's another reason I think we're going to see Insomniac next to the PS5 Pro. Because the PS5 Pro is going to be showing off like RDNA 4 level ray tracing. Insomniac seems to have the most experience with implementing ray tracing. Your favorite Insomniac IP has always been Resistance? That's interesting. A Demon Souls update. That would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen. Jay Shako says Venom is 2025. I do recall, I think, seeing on a portion of the Insomniac hack that they're targeting 2025, but there was also a slide that said they were targeting 2027 for that. So I'm not really sure what to believe. So I just noticed we're at the 2 hour and 26 minute mark, that is. So guys, here's what I'm thinking we're gonna do. Excuse me, because I am gonna be doing a members lounge after this stream. I think we'll give it maybe like another 5, maybe 10 minutes, and I'll make this like kind of the last call for any membership gifts, any super chats, any type of fan funding, as we just wrap up this conversation. Excuse me. Spider-Man 2 has 3 DLCs, as well as Carnage is the second one. Maybe that's the plan then, Jay Shako. Maybe the plan is rolling out Spider-Man 2's DLC throughout 2025. Wolverine 2026. Venom game 2027. Maybe. It's not Mold Cough Gaming Survivor. Yeah, just call me Moldbound Gamer. So who's up next year for Sony? As of right now, there's only a single studio that we know of that's going to be ready to bat next year, and that's assuming there is no delay, and that is Kojima Productions with Death Stranding 2. Rudy, you're saying so the X-Men game is 2030? Apparently so, yeah. That's what the timeline said. Oh, yeah, and Marathon. Yeah, my bad. It's so weird because, like, I know Marathon is technically a PlayStation game, but it just kind of doesn't feel like it. But it is. So, Marathon and Death Stranding 2. The Horizon multiplayer game, I don't know about that. It's possible. It's been in development for a very long time. You just know Sony gave Kojima an early version of the PS5 Pro 2 years ago. Let him cook. I'm telling you now, if there's one thing I am expecting, and I would be very shocked if this didn't happen. If there's one thing I'm expecting, when the PS5 Pro is revealed, Death Stranding 2 will be the showpiece. Don't forget, Death Stranding 2 being made on the Decima engine. The most recent version of the Decima engine. When Sony showed off the PS4 Pro, what game did they showcase? What game was the showpiece? It was Horizon Zero Dawn, running on the Decima engine. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I hope that's what happens. That would be a smart thing for Sony to do, because I don't see many people talking about Death Stranding 2, understandably, because we really don't know that much about it. But I remember when we saw that trailer in January this year. It's crazy to think it's been that long already, but that's how long it's been. When we saw that, I was like looking at some of the screenshots afterwards and going back and watching the 4K video, and specifically the sections where they were showing gameplay and Sam traversing the different environments. I'm just like, this is PS5 Pro I'm looking at, right? Because this is insane. Like, this looks unbelievable. Like, considering how wide and open the environments are, in terms of like, yeah, you can go over there, you know, the scope of the game. Like, it's not a tech demo game. You know what I mean? It's not a linear game. It's an open world. I was like very impressed with what I was seeing. Spider-Man 2 director's cut with all that cut Venom content. Give me it. I'm pretty sure that cut Venom content is specifically for the standalone Venom game. Pretty sure. Tony Todd, the voice actor who did who did the voice work for Venom and Spider-Man 2, he was saying that they only used like 10% of his recorded lines in Spider-Man 2. So 90% of what he did wasn't used. It seems kind of clear, like, why that is at this point. But guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring this stream to a close, and we are going to move right over into the members lounge and hang out there for a little bit. So before I go, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Not a whole lot of topics to discuss today, but just making do with what we have, and obviously hoping that PlayStation starts talking a little bit sooner rather than later. But thank you nonetheless for showing up. I want to thank everybody who dropped any membership gifts or became a channel member. I want to thank everybody for dropping super chats. And also, we got a big direct donation today from Titus. So shout out to him for that, and anybody else who does direct donations. And just a general thank you to everybody for continuing to support the content. I also want to make sure to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for the streams. So if you see him in the comment section, give him some thanks. I know he appreciates it, cares about the community a lot. And yeah, so to all of my channel members, the members lounge is going up right after this stream ends. And to everybody else, I will catch you tomorrow, same time, same place, for another stream where we will discuss more topics. So, all right, guys, that does it. Just do me one last favor and hit that like button as you are heading out. It helps the streams, and I'll catch my members in the lounge. So, all right, until next time, guys, take care.